today's notes are going to involve graphing. So remember, in order to graph a line, we need to be in our y equals mx plus b form, where m is our slope and b is our y-intercept. We always have to solve for y first. If they talk about the y-intercept, remember that's where the graph crosses the y-axis, and it's important to know we know x equals 0 there. The x-intercept is where the graph crosses the x-axis, and we know y is 0 there. So for the following problems below, it says write the equation in y equals mx plus b form. State the slope in the y-intercept. This step is important that you guys sometimes skip, and that's pretty much like your work for graphing, kind of like solving an equation. And then graph the line on the axis provided, and if it's a system, state the solution. Remember, a system would be two equations. So this first one I look at, first step is to see if it's in y equals mx plus b form, and it is. So the next step is to list my m and my b. Remember, your m is whatever's with your x, so my m is 3. But remember, m is our slope, so it's what we'd move on the graph. So if it's not over anything, if it's not a fraction, we put it over 1. And my b, keep the sign with it, is -6. So then we go to our graph. Remember, this is our x-axis, this is our y-axis. You always start with your b. So when you graph, you're going to start at b. And b is on the y-axis. You guys get that confused all the time. So my y-axis, I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because my b is -6, and I'm going to put a point there. From there, remember, if it's a positive, we go up. If it's a negative, we go down. And then always go to the right, whatever the bottom number is to start. So because it's positive, I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3 to the right 1. Up 1, 2, 3 to the right 1. Up 1, 2, 3 to the right 1. That's enough points. If you wanted to go the other direction, you can. But just think about it, if I'm going to go down, I have to go to the left because I need to keep it as an uphill line because it is a positive slope. So make sure you always use a ruler while you're graphing. I didn't get one out before I did this. If you don't have one at home, I'll show you. You guys can just use another sheet of paper. I'll just take a sheet of paper because I never got my ruler out. And I'm going to connect my points. And then remember, you should always be labeling your line, so y equals 3x minus 6. And that one is done because it's not a system, so we don't have to state a point or anything. Number 3, if we follow our steps still, so I'm going to put the steps back up for a minute. First step is to get it in y equals mx plus b form. If I look, this is not in y equals. What y equals mx plus b form means is to get the y by itself. So if I want y by itself, I need to move the x away. In order to move the x away, I need to subtract the x because they are being added. So those cancel. I get y equals. I like to write my x term first, so I'm going to write -x plus 2. Now it's in y equals form, so I can list my m and my b, which is my next step. Remember, if there's nothing with a number, or a letter, I'm sorry, there is a 1 there. So my m is -1 over 1, and my b is 2. So again, on the y-axis, oops, you can't see my graph very good. Let's make sure you can see my whole graph. There you go. On my y-axis, I'm going to go up to 2 and put a dot. From that point, because this is negative, now I'm going to go down and to the right. So down 1 to the right 1. Down 1 to the right 1. Down 1 to the right. Down 1 to the right. Down 1 to the right. Again, that is enough points, so I will use my side of my paper because I didn't get my ruler out. Line them up. And draw a line. Make sure there's arrows on it. And then make sure you label your line. You can either do y equals -x plus 2, or you can have written x plus y equals 2. Either one works. Number 5. There's something nice about number 5. If you see y equals a number or x equals a number, they're just going to be straight up and down lines certain ways. Okay, they're not going to be diagonal, nothing like that. So if you see y equals a number, it would only make sense that it has to hit the y-axis to be equal to that number. So if this is my x-axis, this is my y-axis up here. So at y equals 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it would be silly to draw a line up and down through there because that would be up and down the y-axis. Those would be all different y values. So you want your line to go through the y-axis that way. So y equals 5. And then obviously if it was x equals, it would do the same thing but go up and down because we want to actually cross the x-axis. What's nice about these is you don't have to list any M or B's or anything like that. If it was part of a system, you would have to include a solution, but there's no system here. It's just one equation. Let's look at number 7. Number 7, notice it is a little different than the last few that we've been doing because it is 2 equations. Just trying to make it so you can see the whole thing. So we need to list our M and our B for both equations. So I draw arrows so I know which one goes to each equation. So M equals and B equals. They are both solved for y equals, which is perfect. We don't have to solve anything here yet. I need to list my M and my B. So my first equation with my x is a 2. So my M is going to be 2 over 1. My B is negative 1. My second equation, there's really a 1 in front of that x. So my M is going to be 1 over 1, and my B is going to be 2. Focus on one line at a time when you are graphing. So my x-axis, my y-axis. Let's start with our first line. My B is negative 1, so I'm going to go down to negative 1. From there, I'm going to go up 2 to the right 1. Remember, it's always to the right on the bottom. The top is either up or down, depending on positive or negative. So up 2 to the right 1, up 2 to the right 1, up 2, right 1. Now, up 2, right 1. I'm going to stop there because I can't go any further. But with my last ones, I didn't make you guys do tons of points. But because I have to do a second line and see where they intersect, I always say your first line should cover the whole graph. So instead, I'm going to keep going down 2 to the right 1, or I'm sorry, to the left 1, down 2 to the left. It should only make sense that you go the opposite direction so it continues making a straight line. I'm going to line my ruler up with this, which for me is a piece of paper. And it's extra important to label your equations with these ones. So y equals 2x minus 1. Make sure you label it off the graph somewhere because so it's not in the middle of your next line. But also you have to label these ones so they know which line is which when they are grading it. So my next one, I'm going to start at 2 on my y-axis, so up to 2. And I'm going up 1 to the right 1. So up 1, right 1, nope, I didn't hit my graph yet. Up 1, right 1, nope, didn't hit the other graph yet. Up 1, right 1, look, I'm drawing a point on top of the other point. So when that happens, I circle it so I know I hit it there. Up 1, right 1, and I usually extend at least one more past that point. And that's all you have to do. Once they hit, you have your solution, so you're good. So I'm going to connect these points now. And make sure you label that one, y equals x plus 2. But now we need to do that part D on our list from the beginning. We have to state the solution, which is the point where they cross. So our solution, remember, all solutions are points, and a point is x comma y. So x comma y is how we state a solution. So if I look on my x, so this point down on my x-axis is 1, 2, 3, and my y-axis is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the solution point is 3, 5. That's all you have to do for those ones. one more of these in today's notes. Notice number 9 is another system, but this time they are not solved for y. So both of them need to be solved for y. So y minus x equals -2, and x minus 2y equals 4. I'm going to focus on my first one first. So in order to get this y alone, I'm just going to slide this over a bit. In order to get y alone, it just says y minus x. So the opposite of subtracting x is adding x. So those go away. I get y equals, I like to write my x first. It's a positive x and then -2. I'm going to list my m and my b while I'm working on this problem. Remember, if there's nothing in front of your x, there's really a 1 there. So my m is 1/1, and my b is -2. Let's look at my other equation. X minus 2y. Be extra careful with this one. This is a positive x. So the opposite of a positive x is subtracting x. The negative is with the 2y, so it stays there. When I write my x first, it's a -x and then +4. Last thing I have to do is I have a -2 being multiplied by a y, so I have to divide everything by -2. The -2's cancel. I get y equals, be careful here, this is really a -1 divided by -2. If you do that in your calculator, you'll get a positive 0.5, but I would math frac it and it goes back to 1/2 x. Remember, that's our slope and we want it as a fraction anyways. And then 4 divided by -2 is -2. So m equals b equals, my m is what's with my x, so this time it is a fraction. I don't have to make it a fraction. And my b is -2. So I'm going to move over so you can see the whole graph now. Remember, this is your x-axis, this is your y-axis. We always start on our y-axis. So our first equation had a b of -2. So on my y-axis, I'm going to go down to -2. And then from there, my top is a 1, so I'm going up 1 to the right 1. So up 1, right 1. Remember what I said with the last problem. You want to fill the entire graph for your first line, so that way you always make sure you intersect with the second one. And you could just extend your line, but there's a chance that you'll make a mistake extending your line. Your ruler won't be perfectly straight, and it's nicer to see an exact point when you're drawing a point over a point where they intersect. Then you know you got it right. Again, I'm going to label off to the side, so y equals x minus 2. My second equation, my b is -2, so I'm going to start at -2. Wow, look what happened. I'm already exactly on a point. So I'm going to circle that point, but I still need to do some points before I move on. So this, my slope is up 1 to the right 2. So up 1, right 2, up 1, right 2, up 1, right 2. And that's good enough. You have enough points there to connect your line. We just had to get something going. If you wanted, you could have gone down 1, right 2, so you could have seen where it went the other way. Connect your points with your ruler. Again, label it, so y equals 1/2 x minus 2. And then you need to state your solution because there was 2 lines. On my x-axis, I don't go right or left. There's nothing to read right or left. So my x is 0 and my y is -2. So that's the point, 0, -2. It is your job tonight to do 2 through 8 even, so just the graphing ones, not that many to do on your own. If you have questions, make sure you reach out.